There. Hey, welcome, 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 everybody. Join us in. Come on in as we are going to have a wonderful time. Oh, it says it's preparing. So let me look on my thing to make sure if it's on live there. So it's saying go live. Okay, I did it. Uh, um, okay. When you think, all right, we are testing this out. And so go live anyway. So here we are there. It's setting it up.
It's on live. It says streaming now live on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Hey, 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 everybody. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. My name is Carla, and I'm your relationship doula. And I just want to welcome you all to a safe space, a safe space. We're going to have some wonderful conversations today, and I'm just so glad to have here with me today my sister, Dr. Carolyn Henry-Hurst, and Reverend Doctor. So I'm going to let her introduce herself in a moment, but I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to those of you who may have a mother, and for those of you whose mother may have passed away, and for those of you whose child may have passed away. And this is not a time that's enjoyable for you. I want you to know we're here from you. So grab your tissue. We may have some tears, we may have some laughters, but we're just going to have a wonderful time today. So I want to introduce my sister friend, and we have not always been close, y'all. This is a work in progress. Nothing but God. But please introduce yourself and tell them how they could connect with you.
Well, hi, everyone. I am Carolyn Laverne Winfrey Henry-Hurst. I love using all of those names. And I'm the founder of Going Godward Ministries. So that's how you can find me on Facebook and even on YouTube, Going Godward Ministries. And as Carla said, we haven't always been close. This was a deliberate decision, a choice to say, we're going to put the things behind us and we're going to start building a relationship and getting to know each other. You know, the kids we were when we were growing up, it's like, But we all change. Well, I pray that we all do, but we've changed. We're not the same ones that we were when we were kids. But it's been a work. It's been a journey. So I'm excited about what we're going to do today. And with that, this same person who growing up, I didn't want to have anything to do with, today, God has used my sister, Karla, as a lifeline. She's one of those I call, when I'm on the edge, I call it the girl, talk me off the cliff. Come on, talk me off the ledge. I'm almost at the end. Other times I call it, say, okay, I am not on the ledge, but I see myself inching toward the ledge. So I'm just calling. Other times I call to say, girl, let me tell you just what happened. Let me tell you what God just did. Woo, woo, okay. So it is really awesome to have a sister who is also a friend.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Yes, yes.
Blood connects us. Can't change that. But you can be sisters and not friends. Today, so we are sister friends. She is definitely that for me in my life. And I'm mighty grateful. So yes.
Oh, so that's a little background story on my sister and I, because as she said, we haven't all been close. And there were years when we didn't speak, and when we'd had major fallouts that our children were concerned because we weren't communicating. But I remember in our journey going forward in our relationship, when we made a conscious decision to have a relationship, I remember us having a conversation and saying, I would like for you to be in that inner circle with me, but I need to know I can be honest with you. I need to know that I can say certain things and you know that I'm not trying to hurt you, but if you're going to be in this space with me, this is what the parameters are, because we can still be friends, but it'll be a superficial level of friendship and relationship. And that's fine too, because not everybody can go deep with me, because I have some issues. We all have. But if you want to see that vulnerable, raw side of me, this is what you're asking permission to be a part of. And lo and behold, we both said yes to that journey.
Yeah. And you know what, Carla? I'll tell you what was a key turning point for me making that decision. My daughters. I can't remember what we were talking about at the time, but both of my daughters said to me, the thought of them not having the other in their lives, they couldn't fathom that.
Mm.
And they did not want that for me.
Mm.
They did not want me, because by now, as you know, I had cut all of y'all,
Mm-hmm.
all of my siblings, literally
Mm-hmm.
out of my life, every single last one of them.
Yeah.
Out. And, but my daughters, through their eyes, showed me a picture that I had never considered. And the way they expressed it, I mean, they had tears at the thought of that. They're like, that's not what we want for you, Mom. I mean, and that broke my heart.
Yeah.
That was a major pivotal turning point for
Mm-hmm.
me to make that agreement with you about deliberately getting into relationship. And so I thank God for my children, because mercy, if it weren't for them, I don't see how our relationship would be this far along as it is, you know.
Yes.
But I'm sure the God we serve, he would have worked it out some other way, you know. So,
possibly it may have taken longer. We don't know what, but we know possibly it would have come about because it took two people willing to do this. So I want those of you listening on the replay, and those of you, and thank you, Donna, Carmen, Carolyn, Javerne, Suzette, and Rebecca for tuning in,
hey,
because
y'all.
we just wanted to just share and talk this Mother's Day, when many times it could be a time of pain for others because they may not be speaking to their mother. They may not be speaking to their daughter. They may have valid reasons. It could have been there's trauma that happened in your life. We're not discounting any of that, but we are just letting you know that we are here. And this time when I reached out, when we talked with each other this past third Friday, and there's so much happening, you know, with the loss of that young man, Ahmaud. And I did my 2.23 miles on Friday. That was his birthday on the 26th. And I say, so often as a people, we've gone through so much. And shout out for my shirt, make racism wrong again. To Natural Fit Design, Tara Taylor. You can look her up on Facebook. But so often as a people, you know, we go through so much pain. And I remember just saying, Lord, continue to help me love my enemies. But oh, it's so hard, God, because are we just reading different things? And so Laverne and I started having this conversation. And so Laverne, you share how it started.
Well, you know, I started this journey back to God because I literally had gotten to the point that I was done with God. I was done with church. Here I am, a pastor, a pastor's wife, and I'm not into God anymore. And some things happened that led to me getting to the point. And again, one of my daughters, God used her in a mighty way to help me shift. So here I am on this journey. I decided to do these Facebook Live, I guess vlogs, they call them. And in doing them, I found myself reconnecting with God and sharing parts of my life that it was just accountability for myself. So trying to get back into this God journey, I ran into some bumps and some stuff. So this week, I called one of my pastor girlfriends and I said, I know God has a work for me. I know it's powerfully beautiful. I know He has good plans for me. I know this, but yet I just don't have the inside. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's not the same like before. And I was just sharing my heart out to her. I'm just trying to keep back tears out of, I guess I've messed up so badly, what am I gonna do? And she said something that was so sobering to me. She said, I don't want to sound like your mother. I don't sound like I'm putting you down or, blasting you out. I said, please, if I did not need this, I would not have called you and told you. I need you to be honest with me. We need people in our lives like that. And I said, so please tell me. She says, what God is trying to do for you is grow you up. Woo! He's trying to mature you. Now here I am, a 50-something-year-old woman. She's saying, God trying to grow you up. And I thought about that Bible text in Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12, where it says, you should be the ones teaching folk. I'm paraphrasing, okay? You should be the ones teaching folk. But no, you need to be taught the basics about God and His message. You're drinking milk instead of meat. You're drinking milk instead of being able to eat meat. And that's what I felt like. And I was talking to my sister about that. And Carla, the thing about Carla, again, I was like, I bust out laughing when you brought that analogy about us, me, and you tied in yourself, literally still on the tit. Breastfeeding adults versus meat-eating adults. That visual for me messed me up. I literally saw myself on my mother's lap. My mother is 70-something years old, and me 50-something years old, sitting on my mother's lap, on her tit. I said, ugh! That was such a visual, but it was a convicting one because it's like, that's what you're doing. That's what you look like. How ridiculous is that? And God trying to deal with me growing up and me throwing these tantrums, if you will. And I look at my grandbabies, and when they're throwing their tantrums, I'm just shaking my head like, this is a mess. You need a good whooping. But look, how can I talk about them when I'm doing the same thing?
Yes.
As a grown woman.
I know.
So that was
and the reason why that was so funny, and I did the visual, because I am a visual person. I love to paint pictures in my head. And what I call, one of the things that I do with my clients, I call it perception management. But what was funny with that is growing up, when I had my children, I made the decision to breastfeed. And it wasn't that popular back in the day when I did it. And so I was the first one in my family. Well, no, Laverne, you breastfed a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Not long, but I did.
So I have 3 girls. They're all adults now. And a shout out to my Rebecca, my oldest, who's a lactation specialist. So she has jumped on the bandwagon with breastfeeding and making sure in our population, women are educated, or even all of her clients, she's a nurse, teaching them about lactation and the importance of breastfeeding. And so the joke in my family when I was breastfeeding, and thank you, Cecilia and Valerie, for joining in. And one of the jokes in my family when I was breastfeeding is that they perceived I breastfed too long. So I'm going to call myself out. I breastfed my children till they were 2.5 years old. And my middle child, she kind of got there for about till she was 3 because I had my other one. So she would sneak in and still nurse a little bit when my youngest child was born. And my brother Lloyd is like, this is ridiculous when your children could come and just pull out the jug and nurse. So I got lots of ridicule for nursing my children for more than the quote unquote normal, even though there's no such thing period of time. But in my head, I thought, hey, in the Bible, Hannah didn't let her child Samuel go to the temple till he was weaned. And there's no way she sent Samuel at 6 months to the temple with Eli. He might have been walking.
Yeah, he was.
So I don't mind. Hey, and hey, Dion, for tuning in. I didn't mind that. But as she and I were talking about this now, and Team Milk, and I have my bell. Laverne, what you have as your bell over there for this battle?
I have chocolate candy.
We were talking about how sometimes we don't want to grow up. When the culture is happening right now, sometimes you just don't want to grow up. You want to stay angry and bitter at the injustices that you may seem. But guys, you get to decide. Hashtag Team Milk, hashtag Team Meat. You get to decide what you want to do. If you want to be a babe or if you want to grow up. And so we want to have the conversation and let you know that, yeah, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it hurts. One of the things I learned in early childhood education is that learning can't happen until the point of readiness. And some people aren't at a point of readiness, and they may be still on the milk. They may still be on the breast, as Laverne visualized that. Could you imagine you still on your mama's lap nursing? When Laverne said sucking the tit, that's your breastfeeding. We're using those words today. I know. But could you see that? Could you see yourself sucking a pacifier or a bottle? But when we hold on to bitterness and hatred, no matter what's been done to us, it can kill us from the inside. We're sucking on poison for that. So we just were having to talk about that. So Laverne, continue to share then when you got that visual about you possibly sitting on your mama's lap, nursing, sucking that tit, and what did it do for you to say, how you're going to move forward? What are some things that people may be frustrated with nowadays or that you've experienced that you said, you know what, I got to get over this, or I'm having a hard time getting over it?
Well, that visual was traumatic. That visual for me was not pleasant. And one of the things I thought back, my daughter recently did a message on being petty. And for me, I typed that visual. Now that's petty right there. For me, a grown woman, and that's not exactly how I said it, but to be a grown woman still breastfeeding on my mother's nipple, that's some petty mess right there. That's some ridiculous mess. And I remember when she did that message, she talked about honestly admitting that she's a member of the petty society and that she is trying to come out of that. She is, in essence, in recovery. That's what it was. She's a recovering member of the petty society. And although that visual messed me up, throughout this weekend, I've had to take some time to say, okay, so yes, it was sobering. Yes, it was traumatic, but there are some things that you do need to let go, that I do need to let go. There are some areas that I've been really petty in dealing with. And I also have to admit, I'm guilty. I've really enjoyed being petty about it. Oof.
You like to wallow in it? It felt good to be there?
Ridiculously.
Just cradling in your arms?
unfortunately true. So then today, that same piece of child preached today at a church. And, those of, me, if I have a choice between going out my house and staying in, I'm going to stay in. But as God would have it, I went with my daughter to the speaking engagement. And she made a statement that has stuck. Yeah. I'm tying in her message about petty several weeks ago. And then today, she says, and she was dealing with mental health. And I'm like, I know I need some help. But her statement was, it's okay not to be okay. But it's not okay to purposefully stay there.
Ooh.
Oh,
Ooh.
Let me tell you. Y'all, it took everything out of me not to just wail out loud in that church at that time. Now, maybe when I listen to it again, I might have heard myself do it. But that was so convicting for me because I'm guilty. That image of me breastfeeding, still nursing on my mama's stuff, on my mama's jug. I like that, on my mama's jug. Even though that was traumatic and appalling, but at the same time, it didn't do the thing that needed to be done to help me to really get off of it.
Right.
I saw that. And I also saw, again, Carla, we're visual. So I also saw where we're sitting at the kitchen table and I saw me with my family and, people just talking and me on the jug and somebody say something stupid and me getting off the jug, looking at them and say, that's so dumb. Why would you say something so ridiculous? And then go back on the jug. And that moment, I'm like, really? You want to talk about somebody looking ridiculous?
Yes.
And it's so easy to see how other people look a mess, act a mess, being a mess or being messy, and not seeing us. And the Bible talks about how do you see that speck in the other person's eye when you got a big old moat
in yours?
In your own.
Yeah, I know. And that is so hard. And I get it. And both of us were ringing our bells at the same time for that point, because I heard that too, because sometimes when you choose to be corrected, and one of the things that I realize is not everybody wants to be corrected and to learn. And so for those of us who choose to do so, we're sometimes appalled that the other person next to us, we like, don't they want correction too? That they will still continue down a road that's a dead-end road. And it's just like, wait a minute, why are you doing that? You're going to hurt others and hurt you in the process. And learning to wean ourselves, because as you do that visual, whenever I want to get petty or do whatever, I do that visual is like, am I still nursing on my mama's breast for that thing that I'm still holding a grudge against my husband, against my child, against society, when time and time again, things aren't right. And hey, Jerry and Diane, thank you guys for tuning in. Because the other thing that I wanted to point out in this journey of, as I told my sister Laverne, just releasing emotions, because sometimes the danger is for us. And I love an author I read often is Melody Beattie, and she talks about catching and releasing your emotions. Many times, some of us, and I was guilty, I would store up my emotions, and that's bad, because then you explode, and then that's dangerous. You may end up turning it into road rage or causing a situation where you land in jail, instead of releasing those emotions as it comes. So just like I told you when I was calling my sister on Friday, when she called me, we're catching and releasing those emotions. I'm experiencing the emotions right then and releasing them, and that's a come. Even now, as we're talking with you guys, many of you have some pent up emotions that are in there that you may have kept for years. And The danger is when you just keep them up and you don't have a person where you could just release them to. It's like back in the day, we had the pressure cooker that weren't as fancy as the one now. When you happen to open that before it fused down, you had an explosion where it is necessary to process those emotions, those pains as you get them and release them. Because if you don't, you're a walking time bomb, a ticking time bomb, and that's dangerous. So being able to feel that pain, feel that hurt, I'm no longer going to brush it aside and pretend I'm not feeling it, but to feel it in the moment so that I can catch myself and don't retreat to childhood and start sucking on the breath of bitterness, hatred, or those other kinds of things. So that is what we definitely wanted to share with you guys. But the other thing is, growing up, our maiden name's Henry, and there were certain things that we weren't allowed to do as Henrys. And we many times would say, how come we can't do that? Other kids are doing that. Other kids are doing that. And it was just like, my father, what would he say, Laverne?
Say it again about my father. He said, he didn't say much, but you tell me the tie-in. I don't really know right off.
He was just saying, they're not my child. They're not my child. So just because somebody else was doing something and got away with it, it's not my child. Now, Laverne and I both claim Christian as our belief system, but many times we didn't want to use that phrase because we saw how it was tainted. And so sometimes it's like, I don't want to be called that because I see what others who are calling themselves that are doing. And I said, can we really have the same name? Because that is not who the God we serve and the Christian that we call ourselves to do. But we know that it's by your fruits, not by your name. It's not by your name. You can call yourself Rahab and you're a child of God because you believe in who he is and you have the fruits of the spirits: love, joy, peace, long suffering. If I'm going to say to all of you out there listening, if they don't have those characteristics, love, joy, peace, long suffering, goodness, don't carry a grudge, if they call themselves Christian, a child of God, they just perpetrating. They're not. I'm just saying that. They are just perpetrating. They're just double agents. Yes, they're double agents. Oh, hashtag that.
But the thing is, and to me, that's a nice tie-in about the double agents. Because with us on this respite, if you will, this hiatus where we're quarantined in our homes, at some point, we're going to be able to go back to church, go back to our jobs, whatever the case is. But specifically in going back to church, when we go back, there's going to be double agents.
Yes.
And part of my journey was because of the double agents in church, from growing up, seeing it all the way through as a pastor's wife. You know what? Our father, we call him Hen. He was in essence the assistant pastor. That's what he was akin to back in those days. So like you said, Karla, we couldn't do certain things. The kids can do the same thing, but if we did it, not only did our parents get on us, but the other people would get on us. But let them do it, ain't nobody hardly getting on the others.
Yeah.
Because we were held to a different standard, and I'm guilty. I didn't like that.
Right.
But in church, just growing up seeing how people treated others, the unkindness, the
meanness. Mean.
I was going to say cruelness. I mean, cruelty. It was like, I didn't enjoy it. And then going on up through that and then end up marrying a guy who said, I'm supposed to be a pastor. I'm like, oh, Lord, I ain't going to make a good pastor's wife. You're going to get fired. Goodness gracious. You could be anything but,
So wait, pause on that, Laverne, because guys, during my journey with my husband, he's a pastor's kid and he wanted to be a pastor. So he had a little church for a little bit, but I knew growing up that I didn't need to be a pastor's wife because I knew I was radical. I was a closet rebellious child. I knew I couldn't act out yet or be how I wanted to be because I didn't like to get whoopings. But I knew full well that I could be nobody's first lady because once I was going to get grown, I wasn't going to hold my mouth with foolishness. So go ahead, Laverne.
And that's what I thought the same thing too. I said, baby, my husband, you're going to get fired. Because part of being a Henry and a Winfrey, it was on both sides. We lived seeing people stand up for what was right, what they believed to be right, and not just sit back. And so part of my struggle in the church has been seeing people just sitting back and letting foolishness take place in the house, letting people run over others, let people who are unkind and cruel and ungodly just run the church and just sit back. People just sit back. And I didn't grow up seeing that. So then now I marry a pastor. I'm like, I won't be able to sit in the pew and just don't say nothing, Jerry. This ain't gonna work. But I'm talking about how God will still use how he created you for his glory. So yes, it took some time. And I'm back to them double agents, because when I went to church and I saw the double agents, that was rough. And I was guilty of letting the double agents run me out of the church. I was guilty of finally saying, I'm done. If other folk ain't gonna speak up, then I ain't gonna speak up either. I'm gonna go home and enjoy myself instead of sitting up in church, being mad and cussing them out in my head. Veggie cussing and real cussing. Let me just go home. But then this quarantine has done a thing for me in helping me look at church from a perspective that I had not considered before. Like, I know the Bible says, forsake not the assembling. Okay, I know the Bible talks about the importance, and it says, because through it, you can be able to counter the deceitfulness of sin. So I knew that text. But part of it for me was being able to see that God loves the church. And it's in the church that God grows me up. So back to the sobering moment from this week. God is trying to grow me up. And the very place, the church house, where I have been persecuted in the church house. I've been abused in the church house. Wounded in the church house. All of that stuff in the church house from the negative. But I have to also admit, I have met some people who have loved me like I was their own child in the church house. I have met some people who accepted me with my loud self, with my loud laugh, with my radical crazy stuff, they accepted me. So in the same place, I also experienced some awesome joy. So yes, they're going to be double agents when we go back to church.
And so tying in that, because when as going through that journey, I had my own journey as well too. But I remember, and again, I love my perception management, how I make a flip it in my head. So for me with church, I would continue going, but I saw myself like Harriet Tubman. I saw myself as the Underground Railroad, that me going there was still,
Oh, girl, that was a good one.
Was still to be on the lookout for others who wanted freedom. And so therefore I was working in secret, because not everybody is ready to be free. Some people still want to be in bondage, and that's fine, because as I told you guys before, there comes a time of readiness. And I no longer, because God didn't condemn. I'm not condemning somebody if you're not ready for freedom right now, because that's okay. You may be comfortable with knowing where your next meal is coming from for being on the tit. You may still haven't been weaned. You may still be on, not ready for meat to struggle a little bit more and go through that freedom run. But for those who are ready to go to the freedom run, I was going to make myself available and accessible and just whisper and say, you good? You need anything? Here's the real God. Here's the real thing. Because there was a song that they used to sing growing up in church that I would just look and just, I loved it, but it was such a dichotomy because it says they will know we are Christians by our love. And I was just like, okay, I like this song, but they really not doing this for some people, not everybody.
Right, right.
We are not saying everybody, guys. So this is not that conversation at all, because we are much a part of the body of Christ. But I just want you to know, as we're just releasing tension for what is happening in our society, maybe happening in your lives, and you're feeling a little isolated, or you're feeling like you want to put that finger back in you want to start sucking that thumb again or on that pacifier, because growing up is challenging. Many of us want to grow up when we're children. Oh, I can't wait to grow up. I want to drive a car, but then, ooh, I don't want to put gas in it. You want to have sex, but you don't want no children or responsibility when it's like, oh, babe, my child. I watch Maury all the time. Oh, mother's baby, father's maybe. Guys who just like, oh, well, ain't mine. They got to prove it. Want to do adult things, but don't want to take on adult responsibilities.
Yeah.
So you want to be sucking the breast, but you still want to pull off the breast when you're ready and then just go prance around like you're an adult. And it's just like, guys, we can't do that.
Can't do that.
We can't do that. You know, there has to come a time when you say, I need to grow up. I need to face those things that are hurtful and grow up. So that's what we wanted to just share with you guys.
Well, Carla, I want to
go ahead.
I just want to piggyback on something you said about being a Harriet Tubman in church. That's a beautiful imagery, and at least for me it is. And I would reflect that when I would go to church, one of the things that I know that I would do at different times is I would tend to shadow those individuals who I knew had a harsh tongue, because I noticed how when they would finish greeting somebody, I could see the downcast face of that individual. And I found myself at times just keeping an eye out and making my way eventually to that person that I know was wounded, and just saying something or giving a hug or just something to encourage. And one of the things, again, is that many of us have left the church because of being wounded by others. But you brought a point, Carla, that our role, looking at it from the other side, our presence, there's the ministry of presence. I've heard that preached and talked about, but I recognize there were many people who would reach out to me and say, it's not the same without you there. Mm-hmm. I miss hearing your hallelujahs, or I miss your hug, I miss your smile, or I just miss seeing you. They may never really talk to me, but our presence. Mm-hmm. And with somebody listening, you may not feel or think your presence makes a difference.
Yes.
But it does.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
And by the grace of God, for many of us who left, I'm encouraging you to reevaluate and rethink some things. Mm-hmm. Somebody there needs your presence.
Yes.
Somebody there needs your smile, needs your hug, needs your touch, needs your words. Somebody there needs what God has been doing in you. Mm-hmm. And so many times we think it has to be this perfect thing. You know, I'm guilty of living in my head. And again, my daughter talked about that today. You got to go on my page, Going God with Ministries page. I got that sermon there. But that image of Harriet Tubman, a strong Black woman. Mm-hmm. Yes, she pulled out the gun when she needed to pull out the gun. Like, oh no, you know. But we're not pulling out the gun in this case like that. But at the same time, yes, we are. Because that's what my pastor friend did for me. She pulled out the gun, if you will, on me, which played a part in helping to sober me up to say, okay, Laverne, you got to get out of this pettiness. Okay, Laverne, you need to let that go. Come on. It's time. It's time to get off the jug.
Yes, yes, yes.
And start eating meat. And it's like, yes, God, it's time. So with that, I have to say this morning, I woke up and I made up my mind that I want to spend time with God daily. And he wakes me up extra early. And part of that I've been doing is that sucking the jug bit. I'd lay in the bed and say, I'm too tired to get up, Jesus. But can you talk to me right here in my bed, Jesus? I'm just being real. And what would happen? When I didn't get up, I would fall back to sleep. But the times that I would get up, and so this morning I got up and I just said, again, I'm not sucking on no jug today in the name of Jesus. I got up to spend my time with him. And I got dressed to do my Facebook Live presentation. And next thing you know, my daughter texts me and says, I need you to print something. So I printed out for her. But then it dawned on me, I was dressed. I'm going to go to church with my baby girl. And in that message, in the church house, God did a work for me in helping to continue to grow me up. So that visual, Carla, me on mommy's jug, ain't cute.
And so we're going back to breastfeeding because and releasing that, because when you start weaning a baby or a child from the breast, it's hard. There's going to be some tears. I know my girls, you know, again, like I told you, I was the brunt of the joke for my family with my girls now weaning them, saying, okay, no, when we're having the conversation, and yes, we had conversation because they could talk and they had teeth. Oh, that's the other thing too, when you're breastfeeding and they have teeth and they look at your face and they bite you and they continue on. And just how we do with the Lord, you know, in our own foolishness, we bite down on the situation and sometimes we just don't want to let go. Hurting the person who's helping you. And we've done that in relationships.
Hurting Christ. We hurt him,
yes.
We go contrary.
You know, and so when you start weaning, it takes a process. So we're not saying that it's going to be an abrupt thing. So we know team milk, team meat. But if you're ready to move on that journey, we're here to just cheer you on. That yes, it's rough out there. Yes, there are injustices. Yes, there's lots of things. But I like that scripture in Philippians where it says, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things of good report, if they be any virtue, if they be any praise, think on those things. So many times people wonder when they see me, why is she always cheesing? Because I'm always having a story in my brain, and usually I'm the star attraction. I'm having a good old time. I'm flipping that script. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, Lord. And so just he and I having this journey in the midst of my enemies. We forget sometimes that God says we are in the midst of our enemies. We kind of want to think that we're in the midst of our friends. We're not. I'm an ambassador and teaching people how to manage their stress when they're in warfare, when they're living in situations, when they're having issues with their family members. These are things that are real. So we realize that it is challenging, guys. It is challenging, but we have successfully.
But it's doable. But it's doable. Challenging, but doable.
Yes. Because we are living witnesses that we've come through some landmines, haven't we?
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
We've lost some limbs sometimes and had to get some.
Yes, True that.
But when you see the line, you go hobble on, crawl on, because you want to cross that lane. You want that victory. You have to want that more than you want the revenge on others, more than you want, oh, yes, Donna, yes, you have to want it. And we're not saying it's going to be easy, but it's there. We're there for you in this community to just support. So if you guys have any questions or any comments, put that in the chat. I'm looking at the chat on Facebook because we're going to start wrapping it up. So we thank you for listening to
Yeah,
it on the
thank you.
replay. I'm going to upload it on my YouTube channel, and it's be there on Facebook as well too. But we want you to be encouraged. And again, for such a time as this, things are birthed. When I was telling my sister about, yes, I said, there's so many things I want to share with the world, and we have this platform virtually. So guys, next week, Sunday, that daughter that she was referring to, who talked about the petty and all of that, she's a licensed social worker, and I'm gonna have her as my guest next Sunday. And I'm not sure what time yet, but I'll definitely be posting a flyer on my page and all of that, so you could know. But she's going to give us some wonderful tips on self-care and depression, because it's real. But her tagline, which I love, Miss Charday, is therapy is biblical. I just love it. And she brings such insight that we need during this COVID-19 thing. And many of us do need mental health right now. And we need to know it's okay to reach out to the resources that are available, and that you are not alone, because sometimes we have to get out of our heads, don't we, Laverne?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Is like having that loop. So before we sign off, Laverne, please tell people how they can contact you, because guys, if you ever want a speaker for any of your events, for it could be a church event, it can be an event for self-powering, Reverend Dr. Carolyn Henry-Hurst is the person for you who will do that. One of the things that I enjoyed with my sister in our journey, keep in mind, we grew up together, but we didn't know each other. So when I saw her started going on her spiritual journey, and I'm like, wait, she know the word and stuff like that? She didn't know it as a kid. I was like, I want that, what she has. I want to have that. So she was part of my own transformation in my life. So she's a great speaker. She does a little bit of coaching, but her time is limited. So if you ever could get her and you want to work with her, she's available, but you really have to be at the point of readiness for that change to work with her. But please tell us how we can connect with you on social media.
Well, you definitely can find me on Facebook at Going Godward Ministries, and also on YouTube, same tagline, Going Godward Ministries. Going God, W-A-R-D, Going Godward Ministries. And Karla, thank you so much for having me. I am excited for you, and I'm looking forward to next week to hear from my baby girl. And blessings galore to you and yours and all of you who are listening as well.
Yes,
On your
thank you,
journey.
Suzette. Because I know some classmates and former co-workers have been listening, and some family members and friends. Suzette, thank you. She said, thanks, Henry Sisters. And Donna says, yes, she's been listening. So yes, guys, we are just here for you to just build you up and encourage you. I'm Carla Henry Lewis. I'm a relationship doula. I call myself that because I love having people birth things. And birthing is not it is a messy situation, guys. It is messy. I remember when my husband watched the birth of our child, and he's a comic in his own way. It's like, ooh, I'm like, yeah, you thought it was all clean or whatever. Please come on. Birthing is a messy thing, but I like to be with women to birth things, because they've gone through certain trials, gone through certain things, and they may be scared again, or not knowing what to expect when they want to try again and do something new. Because sometimes people don't want you to be great. Somebody may remind you, well, you didn't do that before. It's like, hey, I'm birthing a new thing.
Beautiful.
So we're going to hush those people and say, you know what? You may want to remember the old me, but I'm birthing something new. I want something better. Yes, me, I used to be a mean, judgmental kind of a person, hardly smiled. But again, I birthed a new me. I didn't like
Glory.
where I was. And I said, God, something's got to change or I'm going to end this. And hallelujah,
Yes.
a change was made. So if you ever need some coaching, I'm here. You can find me on this page and set up a meeting so we can see if we can work together. I do have a mentoring group that I call the Birthing Experience. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely let me know so that we can do that. But you are not alone, guys. You
Yes.
are not alone during this journey. We care about you. It may be virtual, but there's people here for you. So continue to just do what you do and enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day. Those of you who are mothers, for the men listening, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. But if that's going to be it, guys, we're going to sign off. I wish I had a jingle because I like to sing. My sister didn't let me sing with her growing up. But since I don't have a jingle to close me out, I thought of Mr. Rogers' song back in the day, but I won't do that to anybody.
Thank you.
But one day I'm going to do my own stuff. So guys, thank you for tuning in so much. Those of you listening on the free play, feel free to share and like both of our pages, Going Godward Ministry and Stress Management and Relationship Doula. My name is Carla, helping women before and after marriage bravely birth peace in the pieces of their lives. You guys have a great one. And thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Adios. Hasta luego.